At some point, you look around and notice your world has gone quiet. Fewer messages, fewer invitations, fewer people who truly know what's happening inside you. And for a moment, you wonder if you become distant, cold, or broken. But psychology says this shift often isn't a loss. It's a signal that something inside you has changed in a way most people never pause long enough to notice. Keeping your circle small is rarely about pushing people away and more about pulling yourself closer, because as self-awareness grows, your brain becomes less interested in noise and more focused on safety, meaning, and emotional alignment. Research shows that when the mind matures, it stops chasing connection for validation and starts choosing it for peace. One reason your circle shrinks is emotional energy, because your brain has a limited capacity for social stimulation, and psychology calls this cognitive load. The more people you manage, the more mental effort it takes, especially if you're someone who listens deeply, feels intensely, or thinks a lot. Over time, your nervous system starts favoring fewer relationships where you can relax instead of perform. Another reason is boundaries forming quietly. Psychology says boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. And once you begin paying attention to how interactions make you feel, your brain starts associating peace with distance from people who drain you. Maybe there was no fight, no closure, no explanation. You simply stopped reaching out because your body learned what your mind hadn't fully named yet. There's also identity consolidation. When you're younger, connections form through proximity, habits, or shared phases. But as your sense of self stabilizes, your brain begins filtering people based on values, emotional maturity, and respect. Suddenly, many relationships no longer fit, not because anyone is bad, but because you're no longer the same person who needed them. Past experiences shape this too, because your brain remembers patterns more than words. Psychology calls this adaptive caution. If you've been misunderstood, ignored, or emotionally overextended before, your nervous system becomes selective. Closeness is no longer automatic, it's earned through consistency, safety, and mutual effort. And finally, there's the shift from external validation to internal trust. Research shows that when self-validation increases, the need for constant social reassurance decreases. Solitude no longer feels like loneliness, it feels like clarity. And your brain becomes comfortable being alone because silence is no longer empty, it's regulated. So if your circle is small, it doesn't mean you failed socially. It often means your mind learned what costs too much and what gives too little. Psychology says fewer emotionally safe connections create more fulfillment than many shallow ones, and choosing peace over popularity is usually a sign of growth, not isolation. If this felt like it put words to something you couldn't explain, stay here, subscribe, and share this with someone who keeps their circle small and quietly wonders why.